The crystal glasses trembled on their silver trays as Jennifer Washington's hands shook with barely contained rage. She stood frozen in the middle of Lou Bernardine's most exclusive dining room, every pair of eyes in the restaurant burning into her dark skin like laser beams. The silence was so thick she could taste it, bitter and suffocating, mixing with the expensive cologne and judgment that hung in the air like fog. "I said no." The words came from Richard Coleman, billionaire tech mogul, cutting through the quiet like a blade. His cold gray eyes never left Jennifer's face as he repeated himself, slower this time, as if she were too stupid to understand. "My daughter will not be making a spectacle of herself tonight." Jennifer's heart hammered against her ribs, but she refused to look away. Behind Richard's perfectly pressed suit and arrogant smile sat 12-year-old Lily Coleman, her face flushed with embarrassment and disappointment. The girl's hands, which had been signing excitedly just moments before, now lay limp in her lap. Her hearing aids caught the restaurant's dim lighting, and her brown eyes, so different from her father's, were filling with tears. "Sir, I really think," Jennifer began, but Richard raised his hand like he was swatting away a fly. "You think?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're a waitress. You serve food. You don't think about what's best for my daughter." He stood up from his chair, his 6-foot frame towering over Jennifer's 5'6" height. "And you certainly don't encourage her to embarrass herself in front of my business associates." The words hit Jennifer like physical blows. Around them, the restaurant's other patrons pretended to focus on their meals, but she could feel their curiosity and judgment radiating from every table. The other waitstaff had stopped moving, watching the scene unfold like a train wreck they couldn't look away from. Jennifer had been working at Lou Bernardine for 3 years, ever since she'd moved to New York City to pursue her master's degree in music education. She'd served hundreds of wealthy customers, dealt with their demands and their condescension, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Nothing had prepared her for the way Richard Coleman looked at her, like she was less than human, like her opinion meant nothing because of the color of her skin and the uniform she wore. "Mr. Coleman," she said, her voice steadier than she felt, "Lily has been practicing this song for weeks. She's incredibly talented." "Talented?" Richard's voice rose, causing several nearby diners to turn their heads openly now. "She's deaf, miss." He paused, looking at her name tag with obvious disdain. "Washington. She can't even hear the music properly. How could she possibly be talented?" The cruelty in his words made Jennifer's stomach twist. She glanced at Lily, who was now staring at her hands, her small shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. The girl understood every word through lip reading, and each one was destroying her. "That's not how it works," Jennifer said, her voice growing stronger despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Deaf musicians can feel the vibrations, the rhythm. They can read the music and—" "Enough." Richard slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. "I will not have you filling my daughter's head with impossible dreams. She has limitations, and it's time she learned to accept them." The restaurant fell completely silent now. Even the kitchen seemed to have stopped its usual clatter and bustle. Jennifer could hear her own heartbeat in her ears, could feel the sweat beading on her forehead despite the air conditioning. This was the moment that would define everything: her job, her dignity, her future. But as she looked at Lily's tear-streaked face, she realized something else was at stake. This little girl's spirit was being crushed in front of a room full of people, and Jennifer was the only one who seemed to care. "With respect, Mr. Coleman," Jennifer said, her voice carrying across the silent dining room, "you're wrong." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Richard's face went pale, then red, then pale again. His business associates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The maitre d' appeared at Jennifer's elbow, his face a mask of professional concern and barely concealed panic. "Miss Washington," he whispered urgently, "perhaps we should—" "No," Jennifer said, not taking her eyes off Richard. "Lily wants to perform, and she should have that chance. She's been working so hard, and she deserves to be heard." Richard's gray eyes were like ice chips now, cold and sharp enough to cut. "You're fired," he said simply. "Security will escort you out." Jennifer felt the world tilt around her. Her job, her livelihood, her ability to pay for school, everything was crumbling because she dared to stand up to a powerful man. But as she looked at Lily, who was now staring at her with something that looked like hope, she realized she couldn't back down. "Fine," she said, her voice carrying a strength she didn't know she possessed. "But first, I'm going to ask Lily what she wants to do." She turned to the little girl, ignoring Richard's sputtered protests and the gasps from the other diners. Jennifer knelt down beside Lily's chair, putting them at eye level. "Lily," she said clearly, making sure the girl could read her lips, Do you want to perform your song? Lily's eyes darted between Jennifer and her father, fear and longing warring in her expression. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Then, slowly the little girl nodded. Jennifer smiled, feeling tears prick at her own eyes. Then let's do it. She stood up, facing Richard's furious glare and the shocked faces of everyone in the restaurant. The security guard was already approaching, his hand reaching for Jennifer's arm. Her heart was racing so fast she thought it might explode, but she'd made her choice. Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer announced, her voice carrying across the dining room, Lily Coleman would like to perform a song for you tonight. The next few minutes would change everything. Jennifer didn't know it yet, but she was about to witness something that would transform not just her life, but the lives of everyone in that restaurant. The humiliation, the fear, the rage, all of it was about to give way to something beautiful and unexpected. But right now, in this moment, all she knew was that she was about to lose everything for a little girl she'd just met. And somehow that felt like the right thing to do. The security guard's hand stopped inches from Jennifer's arm as something extraordinary happened. Lily Coleman stood up from her chair, her movements graceful despite the tremor in her hands. The little girl walked to the center of the dining room, her head held high, and began to sign. Jennifer watched in amazement as Lily's hands moved through the air, creating a visual symphony that needed no sound to be understood. The girl's face was transformed, no longer the scared child who'd been crying moments before, but an artist lost in her craft. What is she doing? Richard demanded, his voice harsh with confusion and anger. Lily, sit down this instant. But Lily wasn't looking at her father. Her eyes were closed, her whole body swaying to a rhythm only she could feel. Jennifer realized with a shock that the girl was signing Amazing Grace, the same song they'd been discussing earlier. But this wasn't just signing, this was performance art, dance, and music all rolled into one breathtaking display. The restaurant patrons had stopped pretending to eat. Forks hung suspended halfway to mouths, wine glasses sat forgotten on tables, and conversations died mid-sentence as everyone stared at the 12-year-old girl who was somehow making them hear music without a single note being played. Jennifer felt her heart swell with pride and vindication. This was exactly what she'd been trying to tell Richard. Lily wasn't limited by her deafness, she'd found her own way to create and share music, and it was beautiful. Sir, Jennifer said quietly, but her voice carried in the silent restaurant, this is what I meant. This is her talent. Richard's face cycled through a dozen emotions: anger, confusion, shock, and something that might have been wonder. He took a step toward his daughter, then stopped as if he didn't know how to approach this version of Lily he'd never seen before. Lily's performance continued, her hands telling a story of grace and redemption that brought tears to the eyes of hardened businessmen and society wives. Her movements were precise, fluid, and utterly captivating. She was creating something beautiful in the space between sound and silence, and everyone in the room could feel it. She's incredible, whispered a woman at a nearby table. I've never seen anything like this. How does she do it? Asked another patron. How does she know the rhythm? Jennifer wanted to explain, to tell them about the techniques deaf musicians used, about how vibration and visual cues could replace traditional hearing. But she was too mesmerized by Lily's performance to speak. The girl was proving every point Jennifer had tried to make, and doing it with a grace and power that left everyone speechless. As Lily reached the climax of her performance, something magical happened. The other diners began to applaud, not the polite clapping of a fancy restaurant, but real, heartfelt appreciation. The sound seemed to reach Lily through the vibrations in the floor, and she opened her eyes, smiling for the first time since Jennifer had met her. Richard stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, staring at his daughter as if seeing her for the first time. The anger had drained from his face, replaced by something that looked like awe and shame combined. Lily, he whispered, but she was too far away to read his lips. Jennifer stepped forward, her own eyes bright with unshed tears. That was beautiful, Lily. You were incredible. The girl's smile grew wider and she signed something quickly. Jennifer had picked up some basic sign language during her education courses, enough to understand that Lily was thanking her for believing in her. What did she say? Richard asked, his voice small and uncertain. She said thank you, Jennifer replied, for letting her show everyone what she can do. The applause continued, growing louder as more diners joined in. Someone called out, "Bravo," and others echoed the sentiment. Lily's cheeks flushed with happiness and she gave a little bow, just like Jennifer had taught her to do after a performance. Richard approached his daughter slowly, his expensive shoes clicking on the marble floor. When he reached her, he knelt down just as Jennifer had done earlier and looked into Lily's eyes. "I'm sorry," he said clearly, making sure she could read his lips. "I was wrong." Lily's expression softened, and she threw her arms around her father's neck. Richard held her tight, his own eyes filling with tears for the first time in years. The maitre d' appeared at Jennifer's side, his face no longer panicked but confused. "Miss Washington, what should I do about?" "Nothing," Richard said, standing up but keeping one arm around Lily. "Miss Washington isn't fired. In fact, she's—" He paused, looking at Jennifer with an expression she couldn't quite read. "She's exactly right about my daughter." Jennifer felt her knees go weak with relief. Her job was safe, but more importantly, she'd helped Lily find her voice. The girl was glowing with happiness, still receiving compliments from nearby diners who had been moved by her performance. "How did you know?" Richard asked Jennifer, his voice quiet enough that only she could hear. "How did you know she could do this?" Jennifer looked at Lily, who was now chatting animatedly with an elderly woman at a nearby table, her hands moving expressively as she explained her performance. "Because I listened to her," she said simply. "Really listened." Richard's face tightened, and Jennifer could see the guilt eating at him. I thought I was protecting her. I thought if I kept her expectations low, she wouldn't be disappointed." "But you were disappointing her instead," Jennifer said, not unkindly. "She has so much to offer the world. She just needed someone to believe in her." Richard nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving his daughter. "I can see that now. I've been a terrible father." "No," Jennifer said firmly. "You've been a scared father. There's a difference. It's never too late to change." As if to prove her point, Lily ran back to them, her face bright with excitement. She signed something quickly to her father, then looked at Jennifer expectantly. "She wants to know if you'll teach her more songs," Richard translated, his voice thick with emotion. "She says you're the first person who understood her music." Jennifer felt her heart skip a beat. "I'd love to teach her more. But I'm just a waitress here. I don't know if—" "What if you weren't just a waitress?" Richard interrupted. "What if you were something more?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and hope. Jennifer could see the wheels turning in Richard's mind, could almost hear him calculating and planning. But she could also see something else: genuine regret and a desperate desire to make things right with his daughter. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully. Richard looked around the restaurant at the diners who were still talking about Lily's performance, at his daughter who was practically vibrating with excitement, and finally back at Jennifer. "I mean," he said slowly, "that I think we need to talk. About Lily, about her future, and about how wrong I've been about everything." Jennifer nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. Whatever Richard was about to propose, she had a feeling it would change everything. The humiliation of 20 minutes ago seemed like a distant memory now, replaced by something that felt like the beginning of a new chapter. But she also knew that Richard Coleman was a powerful man used to getting his way, and she was still just a waitress who'd stood up to him in front of his peers. Whatever came next, she'd have to be careful not to lose herself in the process. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's talk." 3 days later, Jennifer sat in the lobby of Coleman Industries, her hands smoothing down her best dress, a simple navy blue number she'd bought for job interviews. The 40-story building's glass and steel facade reflected the bustling New York streets, but inside, everything was quiet luxury and understated power. She'd been surprised when Richard's assistant called, requesting a meeting at his office rather than the restaurant. Part of her wondered if this was some elaborate way to humiliate her further, but Lily's performance had been replaying in her mind for days, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something important was about to happen. "Miss Washington?" A crisp voice interrupted her thoughts. "Mr. Coleman will see you now." Jennifer followed the assistant down a hallway lined with awards and photographs of Richard with various world leaders and tech industry giants. Each step echoed on the polished marble floor, and she fought the urge to run back to the elevator. Richard's office was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Manhattan. He stood behind his desk, but this time he wasn't wearing his usual armor of arrogance. Instead, he looked tired, almost vulnerable. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "I'm fine, thank you," Jennifer replied, settling into the leather chair and trying to project more confidence than she felt. Richard sat down heavily, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "I owe you an apology. A real one, not the half-hearted thing I managed at the restaurant." Jennifer remained silent, waiting. "I was wrong about you," he continued. I was wrong about Lily and I was wrong about everything. I let my fear and my prejudices blind me to what was right in front of me. Your prejudices? Jennifer asked, her voice steady despite the anger that flared in her chest. Richard's face flushed. Yes. I made assumptions about you based on your job, your race, your age. I thought I knew better than you about my own daughter. I was an arrogant fool. Jennifer appreciated the honesty, even if it stung to hear her suspicions confirmed. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to make it right, Richard said, leaning forward. I want to hire you to work with Lily. As her music teacher. Jennifer blinked in surprise. I'm not qualified for that. I'm still working on my master's degree. What's your degree in? Richard interrupted. Music education with a focus on adaptive learning techniques, Jennifer admitted. Richard's eyebrows shot up. Adaptive learning techniques? Methods for teaching music to students with disabilities, Jennifer explained. I've been studying how deaf and hard of hearing students can learn and perform music. That's why I knew Lily could do what she did. Richard stared at her for a long moment. You're telling me that you're literally studying exactly what my daughter needs, and I treated you like you were an ignorant waitress? You treated me like I was nothing, Jennifer said quietly. Like my opinion didn't matter because of who you thought I was. The shame on Richard's face was almost painful to watch. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I see how wrong I was. Jennifer studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or false sincerity. But all she saw was genuine remorse and something that looked like desperation. What exactly are you proposing? She asked. Richard sat up straighter, back in his element now that they were discussing business. I want to hire you as Lily's private music tutor. Full-time. I'll pay you 3 times what you're making at the restaurant, plus benefits. You can finish your degree, I'll pay for that too. In exchange, you help Lily develop her musical abilities. Jennifer felt her heart skip. It was an incredible offer, almost too good to be true. Why? Why would you do this? Because I saw what you did for her in 5 minutes, Richard said, his voice thick with emotion. In 5 minutes, you helped her shine in a way I've never seen in 12 years of being her father. You gave her confidence and joy, and you made her believe in herself. I want to give her more of that. And you think throwing money at the problem will fix everything? Jennifer asked, unable to keep the skepticism out of her voice. Richard's face fell. I know it's not that simple. But I don't know what else to do. I've been trying to be a good father, but I've been failing her. I need help. There was something in his voice that made Jennifer look at him more closely. Beneath the expensive suit and commanding presence, she saw a man who was genuinely lost, who loved his daughter but didn't know how to show it. Tell me about Lily, she said. Not her limitations, tell me about her. Richard's face softened immediately. She's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She reads everything she can get her hands on, she's already doing high school level math, and she has this incredible imagination. She writes these amazing stories about characters who communicate through colors and music instead of words. How long has she been deaf? Since she was 4. Meningitis. The doctors said she'd never be able to participate in normal activities, that we'd have to lower our expectations. Richard's voice grew bitter. I think I internalized that more than she did. Jennifer nodded, understanding more now. And her mother? Richard's expression darkened. Sarah left when Lily was 7. Said she couldn't handle having a broken child. He spat the word broken like it tasted bad. I think that's when I started trying to protect Lily from everything, including her own dreams. Jennifer's heart ached for both of them. Lily isn't broken. She's different, but that doesn't make her less capable. I know that now, Richard said quietly. After seeing her perform, after seeing how you looked at her. I realized I've been seeing her disability instead of seeing her. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. The offer was tempting more than tempting. It would solve her financial problems, allow her to finish her education, and give her a chance to work with a student who clearly had incredible potential. But it would also mean working closely with Richard Coleman, a man who had humiliated her and revealed his prejudices in the most public way possible. Could she trust him? Could she trust that he'd really changed? I need to think about it, she said finally. Richard nodded, though she could see the disappointment in his eyes. Of course. But, would you consider meeting with Lily first? Maybe having a proper conversation with her about music? I think she'd love to talk to someone who understands her passion. Jennifer found herself smiling. I'd like that very much. She's at home now practicing. She's been working on a new piece since the restaurant, something she composed herself. Richard's voice was full of pride now, so different from the dismissive tone he'd used just days before. She composes her own music? Jennifer asked, impressed. Apparently she always has. I just never bothered to look at it seriously. Richard's shame was evident again. There's so much I don't know about my own daughter. Jennifer made her decision. I'll meet with her. But I'm not promising anything beyond that. Richard's face lit up with hope. Thank you. That's all I can ask for. As Jennifer left the office, her mind was spinning with possibilities and concerns. Richard Coleman had revealed himself to be a more complex man than she'd initially thought, still privileged and occasionally thoughtless, but also genuinely remorseful and desperate to be a better father. But the real question was Lily. What did she want? What did she need? And could Jennifer really help her reach her potential while navigating the complicated dynamics of the Coleman family? One thing was certain: her life was about to change in ways she never could have imagined. The question was whether it would be for the better. Jennifer stood outside the Coleman mansion in the Upper East Side, her mouth slightly open in shock. She'd known Richard was wealthy, but seeing his home, a 5-story limestone townhouse with ivy-covered walls and gleaming windows, drove home just how different their worlds were. The door opened before she could ring the bell, and Richard appeared, looking more casual than she'd ever seen him, in khakis and a button-down shirt. Jennifer, thank you for coming. Lily's been excited all day. As if summoned by her name, Lily appeared behind her father, practically bouncing with excitement. She signed something quickly, her face bright with anticipation. She says she's been working on something special to show you, Richard translated, his voice warm with affection. Jennifer smiled at the girl. I can't wait to see it. They walked through the house, and Jennifer tried not to gawk at the artwork and antiques that filled every room. Everything was beautiful and expensive, but it felt cold somehow, like a museum rather than a home. We had a music room built for Lily when she was younger, Richard explained as they climbed a curved staircase. Though I'll admit, I never thought she'd actually use it the way she does. The music room was stunning, a bright, airy space with a grand piano, various instruments, and walls lined with built-in shelves filled with sheet music and books. But what caught Jennifer's attention was the corner where Lily had clearly been working. There were papers covered with musical notations scattered across a desk, and a laptop computer with music composition software open on the screen. You compose on the computer? Jennifer asked Lily, making sure to face her so she could read her lips. Lily nodded enthusiastically and signed her response. Richard translated. She says the computer helps her visualize the music. She can see the patterns and rhythms even if she can't hear them in the traditional way. Jennifer was fascinated. Can you show me? For the next hour, Jennifer watched in amazement as Lily demonstrated her compositions. The girl had created complex, beautiful pieces that incorporated visual elements alongside traditional musical notation. She developed her own system of symbols and colors to represent different emotions and dynamics. This is incredible, Jennifer said, genuinely awed. You're not just composing music, you're creating a whole new language. Lily's face glowed with pride and she signed something quickly. She says no one ever understood that before, Richard translated, his voice quiet. She says you're the first person who really sees what she's trying to do. Jennifer felt a lump form in her throat. This brilliant, creative child had been hiding her talents because no one had taken the time to understand her unique perspective. It was heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. Lily, Jennifer said, kneeling down to the girl's level, what do you want to do with your music? What's your dream? Lily's hands moved rapidly as she signed her response, her face animated with excitement. Richard's expression grew more amazed as he translated. She says she wants to perform for people who feel different or left out. She wants to show them that being different doesn't mean being less than. She wants to. He paused, emotion thick in his voice. She wants to help other kids like her believe in themselves. Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. That's a beautiful dream, Lily. And I think you can do it. They spent another hour going through Lily's compositions, with Jennifer offering suggestions and encouragement. The girl was remarkably talented, with an intuitive understanding of musical structure and emotion that couldn't be taught. She just needed guidance and someone who believed in her vision. As they worked, Jennifer became aware of Richard watching them from the doorway. He wasn't interfering or trying to control the situation, he was simply observing, learning about his daughter in a way he clearly never had before. When they finished, Lily hugged Jennifer tightly, signing something that made Richard's eyes widen. What did she say? Jennifer asked. She said she hopes you'll be her teacher, Richard replied. She said she's never had anyone understand her music before. Jennifer's heart clenched. The decision she'd been wrestling with for days suddenly seemed much clearer. This wasn't just about Richard's money or his guilt, it was about Lily and her incredible potential. "Can I speak with you privately?" she asked Richard. They stepped out into the hallway, leaving Lily to work on her compositions. "She's extraordinary," Jennifer said simply. "Her understanding of music theory, her creativity, her passion, she's one of the most gifted students I've ever encountered." Richard's face lit up with pride. "Does that mean you'll take the job?" Jennifer held up a hand. "I have conditions." "Name them." "First, this isn't about you trying to make up for your mistakes. This is about Lily and what she needs. If you interfere or try to control how I teach her, I walk." Richard nodded seriously. "Agreed." "Second, Lily needs to interact with other young musicians. She can't develop in isolation, no matter how luxurious that isolation might be. She needs to collaborate, to perform, to be part of a community." "That makes sense," Richard said. "What do you have in mind?" "There's a youth ensemble in the city that works with musicians from all backgrounds, including students with disabilities. I want her to audition for them." Richard hesitated. "Are you sure she's ready for that? What if they reject her?" Jennifer gave him a sharp look. "Are you already trying to protect her from disappointment?" Richard's face flushed. "You're right. Yes, she should audition." "What's the third condition?" "I want to finish my master's degree while I'm working with her. That means I'll need time for classes and research. My education is important too." "Of course," Richard said quickly. "I'll arrange your schedule around your classes." "Anything else?" Jennifer took a deep breath. "One more thing. I need to know that you respect me as a professional. Not as someone you're paying to assuage your guilt, but as an expert in my field. Can you do that?" Richard was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "I'm going to be honest with you, Jennifer. I've spent my entire adult life being the smartest person in the room, making decisions and having people follow them. Learning to step back and trust someone else's expertise, it's not going to be easy for me." Jennifer appreciated his honesty. "But you'll try?" "I'll try," he said firmly. "Because Lily deserves better than what I've been giving her. She deserves someone who sees her potential and knows how to help her reach it." Jennifer extended her hand. "Then we have a deal." Richard shook it, and Jennifer felt a small thrill of excitement mixed with nervousness. She was about to embark on a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about teaching, about music, and about herself. "When do we start?" Richard asked. "Tomorrow," Jennifer said. "But first I want to ask Lily what she wants to learn. This is her education, and her voice should be the most important one in the room." Richard nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. "She's going to love that. No one's ever asked her what she wanted before." As they walked back toward the music room, Jennifer felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. She was about to change the trajectory of a brilliant young girl's life, but she was also entering into a complex relationship with a man who had already shown her both his worst and his best sides. The question was, which side would she see more of in the days to come? 2 weeks into her new role as Lily's music tutor, Jennifer had established a routine that felt both exciting and challenging. She arrived at the Coleman mansion every morning at 9, spent 4 hours working with Lily on various aspects of music theory and composition, then headed to Columbia University for her own graduate courses in the afternoon. The music room had been transformed into a proper learning environment, with specialized equipment for deaf and hard-of-hearing musicians, including vibrotactile devices that helped Lily feel the rhythms and a sophisticated computer setup for composition work. "Good morning, Lily," Jennifer said as she entered the music room, setting down her bag and pulling out the day's lesson plans. Lily looked up from the piano bench where she'd been practicing, her face lighting up with the enthusiasm Jennifer had come to expect. The girl signed "Good morning" back, then launched into an excited explanation of something she'd been working on. Jennifer had been taking intensive sign language classes in the evenings, and her comprehension was improving rapidly. She caught most of what Lily was saying, something about a new composition that incorporated mathematical patterns she'd learned in her regular studies. "You want to show me how the Fibonacci sequence sounds in music?" Jennifer asked, impressed as always by Lily's innovative thinking. Lily nodded eagerly and moved to her computer, pulling up a composition that visualized the famous mathematical sequence as a musical phrase. The notes climbed and fell in perfect mathematical harmony, creating something that was both intellectually fascinating and emotionally moving. "This is brilliant," Jennifer said, studying the screen. "You're creating music that works on multiple levels: mathematical, emotional, and visual." I've never seen anything like it. From the doorway came the sound of clapping. Jennifer turned to see Richard leaning against the frame, his face filled with wonder and pride. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, stepping into the room. "I just wanted to see how things were going." Over the past 2 weeks, Richard had been true to his word about not interfering. He checked in occasionally, always politely, and seemed genuinely interested in learning about Lily's progress. But Jennifer could see the restraint it took for him to step back, and she appreciated the effort. "Lily was just showing me her latest composition," Jennifer said. "She's combining mathematical concepts with musical structure in a really innovative way." Richard approached the computer, studying the screen with the same intensity he probably brought to business deals. "I can see the pattern," he said slowly. "It's like she's found a way to make math sing." Lily beamed at her father's understanding, signing something quickly. "She says she wants to show you something else," Richard translated. "A piece she's been working on for the youth ensemble Audition." Jennifer's heart skipped. The audition was still 3 weeks away, but Lily had been preparing intensively. The girl had chosen to perform an original composition, which was ambitious but felt right for someone with her unique talents. "Are you ready to show us?" Jennifer asked. Lily nodded and moved to the piano. She'd been working on a piece that told the story of a young person learning to navigate the world without one of the traditional senses, finding new ways to experience beauty and connection. As Lily began to play, Jennifer was struck by how much the girl's technique had improved. Her fingering was more confident, her timing more precise, and most importantly, her emotional expression had deepened. The music told a story without words, moving from tentative exploration to confident self-discovery. Richard stood transfixed, watching his daughter pour her heart into the music. Jennifer could see tears forming in his eyes, and she felt her own throat tighten with emotion. This was what music was supposed to do: connect people, tell stories, and reveal truths that couldn't be spoken. When Lily finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then Richard began to clap, his applause echoing off the walls. "That was incredible," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Lily, that was absolutely incredible." Lily's face glowed with pride, and she signed something to her father. "She says it's about finding your voice even when the world tells you that you don't have one," Richard translated, his voice barely above a whisper. Jennifer felt a chill run down her spine. In just 2 weeks, Lily had gone from a girl who was afraid to perform in front of strangers to someone who was ready to share her deepest experiences through music. The transformation was remarkable. "I think you're more than ready for the audition," Jennifer said. "But I want you to remember something important: no matter what happens, you've already succeeded. You've found your voice, and that's the most important thing." Lily nodded, but Jennifer could see the nervousness in her eyes. The audition represented something bigger than just joining an ensemble. It was her first real step into the wider world of music, and the stakes felt enormous. "What time is your graduate seminar today?" Richard asked Jennifer as Lily moved back to the computer to save her work. 2 o'clock, Jennifer replied. "Professor Chin is presenting new research on adaptive music education techniques. It's actually quite relevant to what we're doing here." Richard nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about something. Would you be interested in presenting Lily's work at an academic conference? Her innovative approach to composition could be valuable for other educators working with deaf students." Jennifer blinked in surprise. That's actually a really good idea. There's a conference on inclusive music education coming up next month. Lily's techniques could help other students. And it would be good for Lily to see that her work has value beyond just personal expression, Richard added. "She needs to understand that her perspective is unique and valuable." Jennifer found herself smiling. In the past 2 weeks, she'd watched Richard transform from an overprotective father into someone who was genuinely invested in his daughter's growth and success. He was learning to support Lily's dreams instead of limiting them. "I'll talk to my advisor about it," Jennifer said. "But we should ask Lily what she thinks first." They turned to the girl, who was now working on a new composition, her fingers moving rapidly over the computer keyboard as she developed a melody. She looked up when she sensed their attention, raising her eyebrows in question. Jennifer explained the conference idea, watching Lily's face carefully for her reaction. The girl's eyes widened with excitement, and she signed rapidly. "She says yes," Richard translated with a grin. "She says she wants to help other kids like her." Jennifer felt her heart swell. This was exactly what she'd hoped for: not just technical improvement, but a sense of purpose and confidence that would serve Lily well beyond music. "There's something else," Richard said, looking slightly nervous. "I wanted to ask you both about something." There's a charity gala next month, a fundraiser for arts education in public schools. They've asked me to speak and I was wondering, would you both consider performing? Jennifer felt her stomach flip. A charity gala meant wealthy donors, media attention, and the kind of high-stakes performance that could make or break a young musician's confidence. That's a big leap from the youth ensemble audition, she said carefully. I know it is, Richard replied. But I've been thinking about what you said, that Lily needs to be part of a community. This would be a chance for her to use her talents to help other kids who need arts education. It feels like the right kind of debut. Jennifer looked at Lily, who was watching their conversation with intense interest. What do you think, Lily? Are you interested in performing at a big event? Lily considered for a moment, then signed her response. Richard translated, she says she's scared but excited. She wants to help other kids have the chance to learn music. Jennifer felt a surge of pride. Despite her youth, Lily already understood that talent came with responsibility, the responsibility to use it for something meaningful. If we do this, Jennifer said, we do it right. Full preparation, backup plans, and a support system. And if at any point Lily changes her mind, we respect that decision. Absolutely, Richard agreed. This is about her growth, not about making a statement. As they continued to discuss the details, Jennifer realized that something had shifted in their dynamic. Richard was no longer the arrogant billionaire who had dismissed her at the restaurant, and she was no longer just the waitress who had stood up to him. They were becoming partners in Lily's education, united by their shared commitment to helping her reach her potential. But Jennifer also sensed something else in Richard's attitude toward her, a warmth and respect that went beyond their professional relationship. She caught him watching her sometimes when she worked with Lily, his expression thoughtful and appreciative. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the day's lesson plan. There would be time to think about the complications later. For now, she had a brilliant student to teach and a future to help shape. All right, she said, clapping her hands together. Let's work on your audition piece one more time. I want to make sure we get the dynamics perfect. Lily nodded eagerly, moving back to the piano. As she began to play, Jennifer watched Richard's face, seeing the love and admiration there. Whatever else happened, she'd helped repair the relationship between father and daughter, and that felt like a victory worth celebrating. The morning of Lily's youth ensemble audition arrived gray and drizzly, matching Jennifer's nervous energy. She'd barely slept, running through potential scenarios and backup plans in her mind. But when she arrived at the Coleman mansion, she found Lily in the music room, calmly practicing scales with a serenity that put Jennifer's anxiety to shame. Good morning, Jennifer said, setting down her bag and trying to project confidence she didn't feel. How are you feeling about today? Lily looked up from the piano and signed her response with a small smile. Jennifer had become fluent enough in sign language to understand. Ready. Excited. A little nervous, but good nervous. Good nervous is perfect, Jennifer replied, sitting down beside her on the piano bench. That means you care about doing well. They ran through Lily's audition piece one final time, a shortened version of her original composition that told the story of finding one's voice. Jennifer had helped her adapt it for the ensemble's instrumentation, and the result was both technically impressive and emotionally powerful. Beautiful, Jennifer said when Lily finished. You've got this. Remember, they're not just listening to your technical skill, they're listening to your story. Richard appeared in the doorway, looking more nervous than his daughter. Ready to go? He asked, jingling his car keys. The New York Youth Ensemble rehearsed in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, a space that buzzed with creative energy. As they walked through the building, Jennifer could hear various instruments being practiced, voices warming up, and the general chaos of young musicians preparing for their craft. This is it, Jennifer said as they approached the audition room. Lily, remember what we talked about. You belong here just as much as anyone else. Lily nodded, her expression calm and focused. She'd worn her favorite purple dress and had her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked professional and confident, every inch the serious musician she'd become. The audition panel consisted of 3 people: Dr. Sarah Martinez, the ensemble's director, James Peterson, a renowned composer who worked with the group, and Maria Santos, a former ensemble member who now served as their accessibility coordinator. Lily Coleman? Dr. Martinez called, and Lily stepped forward with Jennifer beside her. I'm Jennifer Washington, Lily's teacher, Jennifer said, shaking hands with the panel. Thank you for this opportunity. We're excited to hear what Lily has prepared, Dr. Martinez replied warmly. We understand she'll be performing an original composition? Lily nodded and moved to the piano. She'd requested to perform without an interpreter, wanting to let her music speak for itself. Jennifer took a seat in the back of the room, her heart pounding with anticipation. As Lily began to play, Jennifer watched the panel's faces transform. What started as polite attention became genuine engagement, then amazement. Lily's composition was unlike anything they'd heard, technically sophisticated but emotionally raw, telling a story that transcended the traditional boundaries of classical music. When Lily finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "That was remarkable," she said, speaking slowly and clearly so Lily could read her lips. "Did you compose that piece yourself?" Lily nodded, signing her response. Jennifer translated. She says yes, it's about finding your voice when the world tells you that you don't have one. James Peterson whistled softly. The harmonic structure is incredibly sophisticated. How long have you been composing? Since I was 8, Lily signed, with Jennifer translating. But I only started really studying it seriously this year. Maria Santos, the accessibility coordinator, spoke up. Lily, we have other deaf and hard of hearing musicians in the ensemble. How do you feel about collaborating with hearing musicians? Lily's face lit up as she signed her response. She says music is a universal language, Jennifer translated. She believes that different perspectives make the music richer, not more complicated. The panel exchanged looks, and Jennifer could see the excitement in their faces. This was going better than she dared to hope. We'd like to try something, Dr. Martinez said. Would you be willing to work with one of our current members on a short improvisation? Just to see how you collaborate. Lily nodded eagerly, and a few minutes later, a teenage boy with a violin entered the room. This is David Kim, Dr. Martinez explained. He's been with us for 2 years. David was Asian American, probably about 16, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He introduced himself to Lily, speaking clearly and making sure she could see his lips. What would you like to play? He asked. Lily thought for a moment, then moved to the piano. She began playing a simple melody, nothing fancy, just a beautiful, flowing line that seemed to invite collaboration. David listened for a moment, then began to weave his violin around her melody, creating harmonies and counter-melodies that complemented her playing perfectly. Jennifer watched in amazement as the 2 young musicians found their rhythm together. They were communicating through music in a way that transcended words, each responding to the other's musical choices with sensitivity and creativity. When they finished, both teenagers were grinning widely. David signed "Thank you" to Lily clearly. He'd learned some sign language working with other deaf musicians in the ensemble. That was beautiful, Dr. Martinez said, and Jennifer could hear the decision in her voice. Lily, we'd love to offer you a place in the New York Youth Ensemble. You'd be working with musicians from all over the city, performing at various venues throughout the year, and having opportunities to premiere original compositions. Lily's face went blank with shock, then erupted in the biggest smile Jennifer had ever seen. She signed rapidly, tears streaming down her cheeks. She says thank you, Jennifer translated, her own voice thick with emotion. She says she's dreamed of this moment. Dr. Martinez stood up, followed by the other panel members. Welcome to the ensemble, Lily. We're honored to have you. As they walked out of the building, Richard couldn't stop grinning. She did it, he kept repeating. She actually did it. She was incredible, Jennifer agreed. Did you see how naturally she collaborated with David? She's going to thrive in that environment. Lily was practically floating, signing excitedly about the other musicians she'd met and the pieces she wanted to work on. For the first time since Jennifer had known her, the girl seemed to feel like she truly belonged somewhere. I can't thank you enough, Richard said to Jennifer as they reached the car. 6 months ago I would have said this was impossible. Now look at her. Jennifer watched Lily, who was still chatting animatedly about the audition. She did this herself. I just helped her see what was already there. No, Richard said firmly. You did much more than that. You believed in her when no one else did. You saw her potential and helped her develop it. You gave her the confidence to pursue her dreams. There was something in Richard's voice that made Jennifer look at him more closely. The admiration in his eyes wasn't just for her teaching abilities, there was something deeper there, something that made her heart skip a beat. We should celebrate, Richard said, breaking the moment. Lily, where would you like to go for lunch? Lily signed her response and Richard laughed. She wants to go back to Lou Bernardine. She says she wants to perform there again, but this time as a real musician, not just a little girl trying to prove herself. Jennifer felt a chill of recognition. The restaurant where this all began, where Richard had humiliated her and where Lily had found her voice. Going back there felt like completing a circle. "I think that's a perfect idea," she said. "It's time to see how far we've all come." As they drove back into Manhattan, Jennifer reflected on the journey they'd taken together. Just a few months ago, she'd been a waitress standing up to an arrogant billionaire. Now she was a music teacher who'd helped a brilliant young woman find her place in the world. But she also sensed that their story was far from over. There were still challenges ahead: the charity gala, Lily's continued development, and the growing complexity of her relationship with Richard. Whatever came next, she was ready for it. The breakthrough had happened. Now it was time to see where it would lead them. 3 months after Lily's successful audition, the New York Youth Ensemble had become the center of her world. She practiced with them twice a week, had formed close friendships with several other musicians, and was thriving in ways that amazed everyone who knew her. Jennifer had watched the transformation with a mixture of pride and wonder. Lily's confidence had grown exponentially, her musical skills had sharpened through collaboration with other talented young people, and most importantly, she'd found her community. "She's a completely different person," Richard said one evening as he and Jennifer watched Lily rehearse with a small chamber group that had formed within the ensemble. They were preparing for a regional competition, and Lily's original composition had been selected as one of their pieces. "She's the same person," Jennifer corrected gently. "She's just finally in an environment where she can be herself." They were sitting in the back of the rehearsal space, watching Lily work with her fellow musicians. The girl had become something of a leader in the group, her innovative approach to composition inspiring the others to think differently about their own musical expression. "I have something to tell you," Richard said, his voice unusually serious. "The charity gala is next month, and there's been a development." Jennifer felt her stomach tighten. "What kind of development?" "The media attention has been bigger than expected. There are going to be reporters there, possibly television cameras. Some major figures in the music industry will be attending." Richard paused, studying Jennifer's face. "I want to make sure you and Lily are comfortable with that level of exposure." Jennifer considered this carefully. Over the past few months, she'd watched Lily grow more confident, but performing in front of cameras and industry professionals was a big step up from ensemble rehearsals. "What does Lily think?" she asked. "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. She's excited about the performance, but I'm not sure she fully understands the scope of what we're talking about." Jennifer nodded. "We need to prepare her properly. No surprises, no pressure she's not ready for." "Agreed. But there's something else." Richard turned to face her fully. "I've been thinking about your future, about what you want to do after you finish your master's degree." Jennifer felt her heart skip. Over the past few months, she'd been so focused on Lily's development that she'd barely thought about her own career plans. Her work with Lily had been fulfilling beyond anything she'd imagined, but it was temporary, or so she'd assumed. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I want to start a foundation," Richard said, his voice gaining enthusiasm. "A foundation focused on music education for students with disabilities. I want you to run it." Jennifer stared at him, speechless. "Richard, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now. Just think about it. You've shown me how much impact one dedicated teacher can have. Imagine what you could do with proper funding and resources." The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. Jennifer had always dreamed of making a difference in music education, but she'd never imagined having the resources to do it on such a scale. "Why me?" she asked. "There are people with more experience, more credentials." "Because you see students like Lily for who they are, not what they can't do," Richard interrupted. "Because you believe in potential that others overlook. Because you're willing to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult." Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. That's an incredible opportunity." "Think about it," Richard said. "There's no rush. But I wanted you to know that I see a future for us for this work we're doing together." There was something in his voice when he said "for us" that made Jennifer's heart race. Over the past few months, she'd found herself drawn to Richard in ways that went beyond their professional relationship. He'd shown her a side of himself that was thoughtful, passionate, and genuinely committed to making a difference. But she'd also learned to be careful about mixing personal and professional relationships, especially when there was such a power imbalance between them. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "But right now, let's focus on getting Lily ready for the gala." They turned their attention back to the rehearsal, where Lily was working with David Kim on a duet arrangement of her composition. The two young musicians had become close friends, their musical partnership bringing out the best in both of them. "She's ready," Jennifer said, watching Lily's confident interaction with her fellow musicians. "She's more than ready." The following week, they began intensive preparation for the gala performance. Jennifer worked with Lily on stage presence, audience engagement, and managing performance anxiety. They practiced in different venues with different lighting conditions, and in front of small audiences to simulate the experience. "Remember," Jennifer told Lily during one of their practice sessions, "the audience wants you to succeed. They're not there to judge you, they're there to be moved by your music." Lily nodded, her expression serious but calm. Over the past few months, she developed a maturity that impressed everyone who worked with her. She understood the responsibility that came with her talent, and she was ready to use it for something meaningful. "I've been thinking about something," Lily signed during a break in their practice. "I want to dedicate my performance to other kids who feel different or left out. I want them to know that being different can be a strength." Jennifer felt her heart swell with pride. "That's beautiful, Lily. And very brave." "I learned it from you," Lily signed back. "You showed me that standing up for what's right is more important than being comfortable." As they continued to prepare, Jennifer found herself thinking more and more about Richard's foundation proposal. The idea of expanding their work, of helping more students like Lily find their voices, was incredibly appealing. But she also thought about the implications of working so closely with Richard, of building something together that would tie their lives together in ways that went beyond music education. The night before the gala, Jennifer lay awake thinking about the path that had brought her to this moment. 6 months ago, she'd been a waitress fighting for a little girl's right to perform. Now she was a music educator preparing to help that same girl inspire hundreds of people to support arts education. The transformation had been remarkable, but she sensed that the real changes were still to come. Tomorrow's performance would be just the beginning of a new chapter in all their lives. The question was, what would that chapter hold? The morning of the charity gala, Jennifer woke to her phone buzzing with urgent messages. The first was from Richard: "Need to talk. Emergency. Come to the house ASAP." Her stomach dropped as she quickly got dressed and called a taxi. During the 20-minute ride to the Coleman mansion, her mind raced through possibilities. Had something happened to Lily? Was there a problem with the performance venue? Richard met her at the door, his face grim. "We have a situation." He led her to his study, where newspapers were spread across his desk. Jennifer's blood ran cold as she saw the headlines: "Billionaire's charity stunt, using disabled daughter for PR," and "Coleman Foundation, genuine philanthropy or damage control?" "What is this?" Jennifer asked, picking up one of the papers. "Someone leaked information about the foundation proposal," Richard said, his voice tight with anger. "They're painting tonight's performance as a publicity stunt, suggesting that I'm exploiting Lily's disability for positive press." Jennifer read through the articles, her heart sinking with each paragraph. The journalists had somehow learned about the foundation plans and were questioning the timing of the announcement in relation to some recent negative coverage of Coleman Industries' labor practices. "This is about your business, not about Lily," Jennifer said. "They're using her to get at you. I know that, but it doesn't matter. The damage is done. Look at this." Richard showed her his phone, which was full of messages from other philanthropists, board members, and media contacts. "Half the people who were supposed to attend tonight are reconsidering. The other half are coming to watch the spectacle." Jennifer felt sick. "What does this mean for Lily?" "That's what I need to talk to you about. I'm thinking we should cancel her performance. I can't let her be used as a pawn in whatever game the media is playing." "No." The word came out with such force that Richard stepped back. "Absolutely not. Jennifer, be reasonable. If she performs tonight, every camera will be on her, every reporter will be analyzing her every move. They'll be looking for ways to prove that she's being exploited. So let them look," Jennifer said fiercely. "Let them see a brilliant young woman sharing her art with the world. Let them see that she's not a victim or a prop, she's a musician." Richard ran his hands through his hair. "You don't understand the pressure she'll be under. These people can be ruthless." "I understand perfectly," Jennifer shot back. "I understand that you're scared. I understand that you want to protect her. But you're also underestimating her." "I'm not underestimating her. I'm being realistic about what the media can do to a 12-year-old girl." Jennifer stared at him, seeing the fear and protectiveness in his eyes. But she also saw something else, the same impulse that had made him dismiss Lily's abilities at the restaurant months ago. He was still trying to shield her from the world instead of preparing her to face it. "Where is Lily?" she asked. "In her room. She doesn't know about the articles yet." "Good. We need to talk to her together, explain what's happening, and let her decide." Richard's face hardened. "She's 12 years old. She can't make this kind of decision. She's 12 years old, but she's also the most mature person I know when it comes to understanding her own capabilities and limitations. She deserves to have a voice in this." They stared at each other across the study, the tension thick between them. Jennifer realized that this was a defining moment not just for tonight's performance, but for their entire relationship and their work together. "If you cancel her performance without asking her," Jennifer said quietly, "you'll be doing exactly what you did at the restaurant. You'll be deciding what's best for her without considering what she wants." Richard's face went pale. "That's not fair. Isn't it? You've spent months learning to trust her judgment about her music. Now you need to trust her judgment about her life." After a long moment, Richard nodded. "Fine. We'll ask her. But if she seems overwhelmed or scared, we pull the plug." They found Lily in her room, practicing fingering exercises on a silent keyboard. She looked up when they entered, immediately sensing the tension between them. "What's wrong?" she sighed. Jennifer and Richard exchanged glances. Richard sighed and sat down on Lily's bed. "There are some newspaper articles about tonight's performance," he said, speaking slowly and clearly. "Some people are saying negative things about our family and about why you're performing." Lily's expression grew serious. "What kind of negative things?" Jennifer showed her the headlines, watching the girl's face carefully as she read. Lily's expression cycled through confusion, hurt, and finally, anger. "They think I'm being used?" she signed, her movements sharp with indignation. "Some people do," Richard said gently. "And I'm worried that if you perform tonight, they'll focus on the controversy instead of your music." Lily was quiet for a long moment, processing the information. When she finally responded, her signing was calm and deliberate. "What did she say?" Richard asked Jennifer. "She says she understands why you're worried, but she wants to know if the music education program will still help other kids even if there's controversy." Richard nodded. "Yes. The foundation will still happen regardless of what the media says." Lily signed again and Jennifer translated, "Then she wants to perform. She says the kids who will benefit from the program are more important than what reporters think." Richard's face crumpled. "Lily, sweetheart, I just want to protect you." "I know," Lily signed back with Jennifer translating. "But I don't need protection from people who are wrong about me. I need the chance to show them who I really am." Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. At 12 years old, Lily had more courage and wisdom than most adults Jennifer knew. "Are you sure?" Richard asked. "Really sure? Because once we make this decision, there's no going back." Lily nodded firmly, then signed something that made both adults pause. "What did she say?" Richard asked. Jennifer's voice was thick with emotion as she translated. "She says she's not performing for the reporters or the people who want to criticize you. She's performing for the kids who need to see that different doesn't mean less than. She says that's worth any amount of negative attention." Richard stared at his daughter for a long moment, then pulled her into a fierce hug. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered into her hair. Jennifer watched the embrace, feeling her own emotions churning. This was why she'd fallen in love with this work, moments like these, where a young person's courage and determination shone through despite the obstacles. But she also realized she needed to be honest about her own feelings. The foundation proposal, the months of working together, the way Richard looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention, all of it was building towards something she wasn't sure she was ready for. "We need to prepare her for what tonight might be like," Jennifer said, forcing herself to focus on the practical concerns. "The questions, the cameras, the pressure." Richard nodded. "Whatever you think is best. I trust your judgment." As they spent the rest of the day preparing Lily for the performance and the media attention, Jennifer found herself thinking about trust, how it was built, how it was tested, and how it could change everything between two people. Tonight would test all of them in ways they couldn't imagine. The question was whether they'd emerge stronger or whether the pressure would fracture the relationships they'd built. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel buzzed with tension as guests arrived for the charity gala. Jennifer could feel the undercurrent of expectation and controversy as she helped Lily prepare backstage. Reporters lingered near the entrance, and she'd already spotted several people taking photos with their phones. "Remember what we practiced," Jennifer said, adjusting Lily's dress, an elegant black gown that made her look mature and professional. "Focus on your music, not on the audience. Let the music tell your story." Lily nodded, her expression calm despite the chaos around them. She'd been remarkably composed all day, as if the controversy had actually strengthened her resolve rather than shaking it. Richard appeared backstage, looking handsome but tense in his tuxedo. "The program director wants to know if you need anything. Also, there are more cameras than we expected." "How many more?" Jennifer asked. 3 local news stations and a national entertainment program. Plus several bloggers and social media influencers. Richard's jaw was tight. I can still pull the plug if you want. Dad, Lily signed, getting his attention. I'm ready. Stop worrying. Jennifer translated and Richard's face softened. I know you are, sweetheart. I just want tonight to be perfect for you. It will be, Lily signed back. Because I'm doing what I love with people who believe in me. The program director, a efficient woman named Carol, appeared at their side. Lily, you're on in 10 minutes. Jennifer, we have a spot for you at the side of the stage if you want to be nearby. As they made their way toward the stage, Jennifer could hear the murmur of conversation from the ballroom. Through a gap in the curtains, she could see the audience, several hundred people in elegant evening wear, many of them holding champagne glasses and programs. Big crowd, she said to Lily, who was doing final warm-up exercises with her hands. Good, Lily signed. More people to hear the message. Jennifer felt a surge of pride. In the months since they'd started working together, Lily had developed not just as a musician but as a person with a clear sense of purpose. She understood that her performance tonight was about more than just music. It was about representation, about showing the world what was possible when people were given the chance to shine. Ladies and gentlemen, came the announcement from the stage, please welcome our featured performer, Lily Coleman. The applause was polite but cautious as Lily walked onto the stage. Jennifer watched from the wings, her heart pounding as she saw the cameras focus on the small figure at the piano. Lily sat down at the bench, adjusted her position and looked out at the audience. For a moment she was perfectly still, and Jennifer could feel the tension in the room. Then Lily began to play. The opening notes of her composition filled the ballroom, and Jennifer watched the audience's body language change. People sat up straighter, set down their drinks and focused completely on the music. The piece began softly, almost hesitantly, like someone finding their voice for the first time. As the music built, Jennifer could see people in the audience beginning to understand what they were hearing. This wasn't just a performance by a disabled child, this was sophisticated, emotionally powerful music that spoke to universal themes of struggle and triumph. Lily's fingers moved across the keys with complete confidence, her whole body involved in the music. Jennifer could see the cameras capturing every moment, but she could also see that the audience had forgotten about the controversy. They were simply listening, moved by the story Lily was telling through her music. The piece reached its climax, with complex harmonies that represented the moment of breakthrough when someone realizes that their differences are actually their strengths. The music was powerful and uplifting, building to a crescendo that left the audience breathless. As the final notes faded, the ballroom was completely silent. Jennifer held her breath, waiting for the response. Then slowly the applause began. It started with a few people, then spread throughout the room, growing louder and more enthusiastic until the entire audience was on their feet. Jennifer felt tears streaming down her face as she watched Lily stand and bow gracefully. The girl's face was radiant with joy and accomplishment, and the audience's response was clearly genuine, not polite charity, but real appreciation for what they'd witnessed. That was extraordinary, said a voice beside Jennifer. She turned to see Dr. Martinez from the youth ensemble, who had been invited to attend. I've never seen an audience respond like that to a young performer. On stage, Lily was gesturing for quiet. When the applause died down, she began to sign. Jennifer realized that the girl had prepared remarks, and she quickly moved to the microphone to translate. Thank you, Lily signed, with Jennifer speaking her words. I want to dedicate this performance to all the kids who feel different or left out. I want them to know that being different isn't something to hide, it's something to celebrate. The applause erupted again, even louder this time. Jennifer could see people wiping their eyes, and she noticed that several of the reporters were lowering their cameras, as if they realized they were witnessing something too genuine to exploit. Music taught me that I have a voice, Lily continued, with Jennifer translating. Even though I can't hear the way other people do, I can still create something beautiful. I can still connect with people. I can still make a difference. The audience was completely captivated now. Jennifer could see Richard in the front row, tears streaming down his face, his expression filled with pride and love. The foundation my dad is starting will help other kids find their voices too, Lily signed. Kids who might think they can't do music because they're different. But different doesn't mean less than. Different means special. Different means you have something unique to offer the world. When Lily finished, the standing ovation lasted for several minutes. Jennifer watched as audience members approached the stage, wanting to shake Lily's hand or tell her how moved they'd been by her performance. Later, as the evening wound down, Jennifer found herself surrounded by people wanting to know more about Lily's education and development. Music teachers, therapists, and other professionals were eager to learn about the techniques they'd used. The key is seeing the student first, not the disability, Jennifer explained to a group of educators. Lily's deafness isn't a limitation, it's just a different way of experiencing music. Once you understand that, you can adapt your teaching methods accordingly. A woman from the New York Times approached her. "Miss Washington, I have to admit, I came here tonight expecting to write a very different story. What I witnessed was remarkable. Can you tell me about your background?" Jennifer smiled, feeling more confident than she ever had before. "I'm completing my master's degree in music education with a focus on adaptive learning techniques. My work with Lily has shown me that when we believe in our students' potential and give them the right support, amazing things can happen." Across the room she could see Richard being interviewed by other reporters. The questions seemed friendly now, focused on the foundation and its mission rather than looking for controversy. "Miss Washington?" A voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see a distinguished older man with kind eyes. "I'm Dr. Robert Harrison from the Giuliard School. I wanted to speak with you about your student." Jennifer's heart skipped. Giuliard was one of the most prestigious music schools in the world. Lily's composition tonight was extraordinary, Dr. Harrison continued. "Her harmonic sense, her emotional maturity, her technical skill, it's all quite remarkable for someone her age. Has she considered applying for our pre-college program?" Jennifer felt the world tilt slightly. She's only 12. "Age is just a number when it comes to exceptional talent," Dr. Harrison said. "We have programs designed for students with her abilities. The question is whether she's ready for that level of challenge." Jennifer looked across the room to where Lily was chatting with David Kim and some other young musicians who had come to support her. The girl was glowing with happiness, completely in her element. "I think she could handle anything," Jennifer said honestly. "But that would be her decision to make. Of course. Perhaps we could arrange for her to visit, meet some of our faculty, see if it feels like the right fit." Dr. Harrison handed her his card. "Have her teacher call me." Jennifer smiled. "I am her teacher." Dr. Harrison looked surprised. "I assumed, given your age, you must be incredibly gifted yourself to have developed such a talented student." "Lily was already talented," Jennifer said. "I just helped her find ways to express it." As the evening finally came to an end, Jennifer found herself standing outside the Plaza Hotel with Richard and Lily, watching the last of the guests disappear into the New York night. "That was incredible," Richard said, his voice still thick with emotion. "Lily, you were absolutely incredible." Lily signed her response and Jennifer translated, "She says it felt like coming home. Like she was finally where she belonged." Richard turned to Jennifer. "I can't thank you enough. For everything. For believing in her, for standing up to me when I was wrong, for helping her become the person she was meant to be." There was something in his voice that made Jennifer look at him more closely. In the soft light from the hotel's entrance, she could see the admiration and gratitude in his eyes, but also something deeper. "Richard," she began, but he held up a hand. "I know this might not be the right time or place," he said, "but I need to tell you something. Working with you these past months, watching you with Lily, seeing your passion and dedication. I've fallen in love with you." Jennifer felt her breath catch. She'd sensed the growing attraction between them, but hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. "I know there are complications," Richard continued. "The foundation, our working relationship, the differences in our backgrounds. But I also know that what I feel for you is real, and I had to tell you." Jennifer looked at Lily, who was watching their conversation with interest despite not being able to hear it. The girl signed something and Jennifer couldn't help but smile. "What did she say?" Richard asked. "She says it's about time you told her," Jennifer replied. "Apparently she's been waiting for this conversation for weeks." Richard laughed, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "So what do you think? Is there a chance for us?" Jennifer considered everything that had brought them to this moment: the confrontation at the restaurant, the gradual building of trust and respect, the shared joy in Lily's success, and the growing attraction she'd been trying to ignore. "I think," she said slowly, "that tonight proved we can handle whatever challenges come our way. Together." Richard's face lit up with hope. "Really? Really? But we do this right. Lily comes first always. And we build something together that's based on mutual respect and partnership, not just attraction." "Agreed," Richard said immediately. "Though I have to say the attraction is pretty significant." Jennifer felt herself blush. "It is for me too." Lily clapped her hands to get their attention, then signed something that made both adults laugh. What did she say? Jennifer asked. She says we should stop talking and kiss already, Richard translated, grinning. She says she's tired of watching us make eyes at each other. Jennifer looked at this man who had gone from arrogant billionaire to devoted father to someone she genuinely cared about, then at the remarkable young woman who had brought them together. I think Lily has the right idea, she said. As Richard leaned down to kiss her, Jennifer realized that this was just the beginning of their story together. There would be challenges ahead, the foundation to build, Lily's continued education to plan, and their own relationship to navigate. But tonight had shown her that when people came together with genuine love and respect, amazing things could happen. The future was full of possibilities and she was ready to explore them all. 6 months after the charity gala, Jennifer stood in the bright, airy offices of the Coleman Foundation for Adaptive Music Education, watching as the final pieces of furniture were moved into place. The space buzzed with activity as staff members set up computers, organized materials, and prepared for their first group of students. It's really happening, said Maria Santos, who had left her position with the youth ensemble to become the Foundation's program coordinator. 6 months ago this was just an idea. Now we're about to change lives. Jennifer smiled, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The Foundation had grown faster than anyone had expected, with donations pouring in after Lily's performance and media coverage of their work. They now had funding for a full program, serving students with various disabilities across New York City. Jennifer. Richard's voice came from behind her. She turned to see him approaching with a tablet in his hands, his expression mixing business focus with the warmth that had become so familiar over the past months. The Times wants to do a follow-up story, he said. 6 months later, how are things going, what have we learned, that sort of thing. Jennifer nodded. That sounds good. It might help us reach more families who could benefit from the program. Richard studied her face. You're nervous about something. What is it? Jennifer appreciated how well he'd learned to read her moods. Their relationship had developed steadily over the past months, built on a foundation of shared purpose and genuine affection. They'd taken things slowly, always keeping Lily's needs at the center of their decisions. It's the Giuliard thing, she admitted. Lily's audition is next week and I'm terrified. After months of preparation and visits to the school, Lily had decided to audition for Giuliard's pre-college program. It would mean a more intensive schedule, working with world-class musicians, and taking her education to the next level. She's ready, Richard said firmly. You've prepared her beautifully. I know she's ready musically, Jennifer replied. I'm worried about everything else. The pressure, the competition, whether she'll still be happy. Richard set down his tablet and took her hands. Jennifer, look at me. You've spent the past year helping Lily become confident, self-aware, and passionate about her music. She's not the scared little girl from the restaurant anymore. She can handle this. Jennifer knew he was right, but the protective instincts she'd developed for Lily were hard to quiet. The girl had become like a daughter to her, and the thought of her facing rejection or disappointment was almost unbearable. Besides, Richard added with a smile, she's got the best teacher in the city. If anyone can help her succeed, it's you. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of excited voices from the hallway. Lily burst through the door, followed by David Kim and several other young musicians from the youth ensemble. Jennifer. Lily signed enthusiastically. Look what we brought. The group was carrying a large wrapped package, which they set down carefully in the center of the room. Lily gestured for Jennifer to open it, her face bright with anticipation. Jennifer unwrapped the package to reveal a beautiful bronze plaque engraved with the words, "The Jennifer Washington Center for Adaptive Music Education, where every voice deserves to be heard." It's from all of us, David said, speaking clearly so Lily could read his lips. All the musicians who've worked with you, everyone you've helped. We wanted you to know how much your work means. Jennifer felt tears well up in her eyes. This is beautiful. Thank you. There's more, Lily signed, pulling out a smaller package. Inside was a photo album filled with pictures from the past year rehearsals, performances, students working together, and candid shots of the friendships that had formed. You started something special, Maria said. Not just with Lily but with all of us. You showed us what's possible when we stop focusing on limitations and start celebrating abilities. Jennifer flipped through the photos, seeing the journey they'd all taken together. There was Lily at her first youth ensemble rehearsal, nervous but determined. Pictures from the charity gala, where she'd found her voice in front of hundreds of people. Images from foundation events, where other students were discovering their own musical talents. "I have some news," Dr. Martinez said, entering the room with an official-looking envelope. "The youth ensemble has been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall as part of a benefit concert for music education. And we want Lily to be our featured soloist." The room erupted in cheers and excited signing. Lily's face went through a range of emotions: shock, excitement, and finally, a calm determination that Jennifer had come to recognize. "When?" Lily sighed. "3 months from now," Dr. Martinez replied. "Which means you'll have time to prepare after your Giuliard audition, regardless of how that goes." Jennifer felt a surge of pride and emotion. Carnegie Hall, the pinnacle of classical music performance. A year ago, Lily had been afraid to perform in a restaurant. Now she was being invited to one of the most prestigious venues in the world. "There's something I want to say," Lily signed, getting everyone's attention. Jennifer moved to translate for those who didn't know sign language. "A year ago, I thought being different meant being less than everyone else," Lily began, with Jennifer speaking her words. "I thought my deafness meant I couldn't really be a musician. But Jennifer showed me that being different just means finding your own way to create something beautiful." The room was completely quiet, everyone focused on Lily's words. "This foundation isn't just about music education," Lily continued. "It's about showing kids that they have value exactly as they are. That their differences are gifts, not obstacles. And that with the right support and belief they can achieve anything." Jennifer's voice was thick with emotion as she translated Lily's final words. "I'm proud to be different. I'm proud to be deaf. And I'm proud to use my music to help other kids find their own voices." The room erupted in applause and cheers. Jennifer found herself surrounded by hugs from students, colleagues, and friends who had become like family over the past year. Later that evening, after the celebration had wound down, Jennifer found herself alone with Richard and Lily in the foundation's main classroom. They were sitting on the floor, surrounded by the remnants of their impromptu party. "I have something to ask you both," Richard said, his voice serious but warm. "Jennifer, the foundation is exceeding every goal we set. Your vision for adaptive music education is changing lives. I want to ask if you'll consider making this your permanent career. Not just until you finish your degree but long-term." Jennifer felt her heart skip. "Richard, let me finish," he said gently. "I'm not just talking about the foundation. I'm talking about our life together. All 3 of us. I want us to be a family." Jennifer looked at Lily, who was watching the conversation intently. "What do you think, Lily? How do you feel about that?" Lily's response was immediate and enthusiastic. "She says she's been hoping you'd ask," Jennifer translated, laughing through her tears. "She says you've been part of our family since the night at the restaurant. So what do you say?" Richard asked, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small velvet box. "Will you marry me? Will you help me raise this incredible daughter? Will you build a future with us?" Jennifer looked at the ring, a simple, elegant solitaire that caught the light from the classroom's windows. Then she looked at Richard's hopeful face and Lily's excited expression. A year ago, she'd been a graduate student working as a waitress, fighting for a little girl's right to perform. Now she was being offered everything she'd ever dreamed of: meaningful work, a loving family, and the chance to make a real difference in the world. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Yes to all of it." As Richard slipped the ring onto her finger and Lily threw her arms around both of them, Jennifer realized that this was just the beginning of their story together. There would be challenges ahead: Lily's audition, the growing foundation, building a life together, but they would face them as a family. The little girl who had been silenced by her father's fear had found her voice and used it to change the world. The waitress who had stood up for what was right had become a leader in her field. And the billionaire who had learned to see beyond his prejudices had found love and purpose. Together, they had created something beautiful from the most unlikely beginning. And the best was yet to come.